Call the meeting back to order. I have a motion moved by David Mollison, seconded by Bev Cunningham. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby returns to open session of Council at 10:07 a.m. Any discussion on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. There you are, Mark. I don't believe there's anything matters arising from closed session or direction, and only those matters that were indicated were the only matters that were discussed in closed session. Mark, have the minutes note that. We don't have any public meeting. Consent agenda. I have a motion moved by Don B. Marshall and seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of Council the Municipality of West Grey held on December 16, 2013, and the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held on December 11, 2013 be approved as printed, and further that the minutes of the West Grey Committees A2 be received as circulated, and further that the minutes of other committees A3 be received as circulated. Any questions or comments on this motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried. Okay.
That's the only motion for consent.
All right, that's it for consent. There's just the minutes. There's no, something that goes down there. Communications from Mayor and Council. Does any council members have any communications they'd like to share with us at this time? From any activities over the winter holiday season? Councillor Lawrence. Carol?
I don't know if you were there. I know Councillor Thompson was there. The Ayton Fire Department, the association, had a very successful New Year's morning breakfast. And I don't know how many. Last year they fed over 300. I don't know how many were there this year. But
not quite to the 300. I was one of the last ones there, and they were about getting close to 300. There were 275, 280. Yep, they were very good.
Give them a lot of credit. I'm sure a lot of them don't feel like cooking breakfast that morning after New Year's Eve, but anyway, they did a good job, and it was very good.
Well, that's why Joanne and I showed up at noon. We wanted to see that the individuals had their eyes open when they were serving us the bacon. No, they do a great job, and good promotion for the hall there. And yeah, they did a very wonderful. Carol.
I just want to pass this on too. I have passed it on, not to Bev, but to the rest of the Parks Committee. I had a resident from just outside of Durham in Glenelg, and she was going to call me, but she saw me at the Legion, and she said she wanted me to pass on to the people responsible for the beautiful flowers and lights that have been around town. She said a lot of people in her circle that she moved in have mentioned it. And what she said is that just seeing them, it just lifts your spirit and makes you proud. And so she asked me to pass that on to the people that were responsible for doing the flowers and doing the lights. So it's kind of nice to hear that from residents.
Yeah, I don't believe she did it by written letter, but she did do it as an email. And I
just to
Mark,
the east of us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, out on Highway 4 there.
Yes.
I think we know who we're talking about, and yeah, I think Mark has sent that one out, so you may not have seen it. Councillor Cunningham. Bev.
Wondering if council could send a letter of thanks, because so much of that work is done through volunteers, all the lights and the trees and the bridge swags and the gazebo done, and the new pergola had the snowflakes hanging off it. I mean, they just go over and above the call of duty, that's for sure, and considering it's volunteer hours. Could council send a letter of thanks and appreciation to the Parks Committee for their work?
Given direction, we can certainly do that. I think it would be appropriate.
I think it would be nice.
Anybody got a problem with that? Everybody seems to be in favor, so consensus? Yep, we'll make sure that that gets out to
Tricia Black is the chair.
Trish, yep. Very good. Anything else? As well, on New Year's Day, I had the opportunity to be at the Durham Legion for the Durham Legion levy. So it's been going on for a number of years. They had a very good crowd again, and that was well done. I also stopped into Hanover. They had an invitation from the Mayor of Hanover, and they have theirs, their New Year's Day levy, the Mayor's levy, at the P&H, their arena and facility, and had the young people out skating. So there was a number of West Grey residents there enjoying the free skating and pool time for January 1st. So that was good to see as well too. And on behalf of Joanne and I hope everybody enjoyed the holiday season and also brought in the new year expecting great things. And I guess we can say that we weren't expecting, but probably will be getting a great storm apparently coming here in the next 24 hours, give or take. So I hope everybody takes care with that going forward. Then one other thing, just don't know, just bring that up right now. There's been a group that made a presentation at our last council meeting, and we'll be bringing it up. Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. We'll leave it to, Mark says maybe the best place would be leave it till business arising from the minutes, because it does have to deal with the viewing area at the Durham Arena that was suggested at the last meeting. So an update on that. So we'll do that at business arising. Thanks, Mark. Delegations. If there's no other communications, we'll get down to delegations. And this morning we have one cancellation, but that wasn't be until 10:30. But the first individual is here, Kim. Thank you very much for coming. Kim Culkin from the South Grey Bruce Youth Literacy Council is looking for to inform us how things have been going, and that we should have a literacy day in proclamation here. So Kim, I'll turn it over to you, and you have the microphone turned on. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Good morning, Mayor and councillors. Happy New Year. It's good to see you all here, even though the weather is not making it easy for you. So I really appreciate your taking the time to listen to us this morning. And we're especially grateful for your past support and ongoing support for youth literacy in our area. As you know, our program has provided free, confidential one-on-one tutoring for young learners aged 6 to 18 in the South Grey Bruce area now for almost 25 years. And in Grey Bruce, since 1992, we've been based in Hanover, but we have served an awful lot of young learners here directly in Durham and in other parts of West Grey. I've had the privilege of meeting some of these young learners and also some of the tutors that have worked as volunteers for us, many of them over many years. I will introduce you this morning to Harvey McFadden, who's currently serving on our board as treasurer, but who's been a volunteer tutor with us for 13 years. And he's personally responsible for 7 students staying in school, working up to grade level, becoming successful students. We have some very heartwarming stories. I've only started in September, so I'm learning the history as I go. And some of the histories are remarkable. There are young students who've come, who have left school, and then who have been brought back into school and completed their studies as a direct result of working with some of our volunteer tutors. These are people you don't expect to be brilliant leaders of children, but they are. They become mentors, they become advisors and guides, and they form a very strong relationship with these learners so that they want to stay in school, they want to go back to school, and they want to finish school. So I can't say enough about the wonderful work that the tutors do. And the Youth Literacy Council has been a remarkable teeny-weeny but mighty force for quite a long time now, and we have some remarkable programs that we're trying to get started as well. So it's so important to us that we get the kind of support that the municipality has demonstrated to us in the past. Specifically today, that we would like to ensure that you recognize by proclamation the 2014 Family Literacy Day, celebrated as it is every year on January 27th. That's a Monday this year. Let me just check my notes to see if I've left anything out for you, because I really want you to know about the other end, because the other part of youth literacy that we are proud of is our continuum, that we help families not only learn about literacy issues, overcome and break the cycle of low literacy levels, but also celebrate the benefits of literacy. So this year we're entering our 7th year as production partners with the Words Aloud Spoken Word Festival and Storytelling Festival. This past year, students were given very accessible admission fees to the 12 Disappearing Princesses, and also we ran our writing competition yet again. Disappearing Acts was the theme, and we actually had 2 winners from the West Grey area, so you should be very proud of your young students. This year as well, we expanded our competition to include French as well as English categories from grades 1 to 8, and we had some remarkable entries in both languages. So I'd like to just thank you for those, because your support is what's helping us keep the profile, keep the awareness, and your demonstrated support helps others understand the importance of our work. This gift of literacy is a precious key to lifelong learning. So thank you, Mayor and Council, for your commitment and for honoring Family Literacy Day by your endorsement of the proclamation. By doing so, you're joining other communities across Canada who celebrate this special day. And most importantly, you're communicating the message to the children and parents in our community that reading and learning habits that we develop at this age, very early on, set the stage for our success in later life and help us sidestep some of the pitfalls. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Kim. Just wondering whether there was any questions for Kim on this. I know you did a very good job of explaining it, so was hopeful that there wouldn't. How does council want to proceed with this? Normally, it would have been in miscellaneous correspondence. I think it was there. Because we had Kim here, we didn't pull it from there to endorse it, but we could do that as a motion right now from that, or just do it as a direct motion. Bev. Councillor Cuddy.
We proclaimed January 27, 2014 as Family Literacy Day.
Coming down to you. And I believe we'll use just the proclamation that's there. I should have said this before we haven't got it signed yet, so comfortable whichever way council wants to go, Kim, but I was just wondering, you've got my name in there, but I'm hopeful that we can kind of take mine out. It's not me that's proclaiming it, it's the Council of West Grey. And I think that's the way Mark has got it, request. So I said, yes, personally I do support it and grateful for that, but it's the municipality. Very good. So I have a motion moved by Bev Cutting, seconded by Carol Lawrence, whereas solid literacy skills are vital to our social and economic development as a municipality, and whereas research shows that parents have a strong influence on literacy development of their children, and whereas the South Grey Bruce Youth Literacy Council, in tandem with our schools and libraries, serve to secure a solid learning foundation for our children, and whereas family learning helps maintain the literacy levels of adults and encourages the development of lifelong readers and learners. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby proclaims January 27th as ABC Canada Family Literacy Day in the Municipality of West Grey, with events throughout this year of 2014. Any comments or questions on the resolution? Other than our CEO clerk, it's his birthday that day, so this will be another celebration for that. Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried unanimously.
So we'll get you a book for your birthday.
I've got committee of the whole, so
We do have committee of the whole that day, and I believe the next day he is off on vacation for a time, so he probably needs a book to read while he's maybe somewhere in the southern hemisphere, or at least in the sunshine, Mark. Thank you very much, Kim and Harold, for coming in today and giving us a bit of an update, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, and happy New Year to all. Thanks very much.
thank you.
Absolutely, great. Now I don't have a clerk to write this down, but I do have Adam out there recording it. So we can continue on a little bit, just to give an update, and this deals with business arising from the previous meeting. We had a delegation and a support for the Durham Arena heated viewing area. At that time, council had asked that a group, or it had been proposed, that we would have a group do some fundraising for that. And I see one of the main proponents of that project is with us again here this morning, and I got a bit of information. They have formed, Don, I believe you have formed a fundraising committee and have been very active and been very supportive so far. If I may venture to say, I think I heard you say somewhere in with a week's notice type of thing, you're in excess of $10,000 raised from the community. Coming forward without getting into any of the user groups, minor hockey, figure skating, Thundercats, Agricultural Society, and any of those haven't been approached. These are personal donations from private individuals. And then on top of that, I understand that you have the commitment from a number of individuals on in-kind, if we were to go ahead with the project, with in-kind labor and services as well too. What we would ask, or what I'm going to ask council to consider, is naming, and I guess it's pretty good we have a committee, in naming a fundraising committee for this project specifically, and asking Carrie that the applications, or the donations come through to West Grey, and that we can issue tax receipts for those donations through that. If that's fine, I see Carrie saying absolutely. We've done this before on a number of other projects, and community involvement are grateful for that type of activity here in West Grey. So I was wondering, Mark, do you want to do that as a direct motion coming forward, or
It should be a direct motion.
and that just giving notice of that, we'll have as a direct motion, giving notice of that, that's what I'm looking for council to consider coming forward here shortly. Any questions?
Fundraising committee, or names that I have.
Yeah, I'll be able to get you some names coming up here, Mark. Dave, first. Can you use your microphone so we can all hear Dave? I've been waiting to do that for a while. Go ahead.
Could they also pay the bills through here to save the GST? They'll get it back?
Yes, the municipality will be, is what I see, doing the project.
Might as well be in our
And
pocket as...
Yep, and that was the idea behind it when we discussed it the last meeting.
Thank you.
Good. Bev?
So the municipality is in charge of the project. Who is actually in charge of the project? Who is going to be the person who purchases the concrete and does all that?
That has yet to be decided, but the way I would see it going is that in consultation with our chief building official, to do the project, and I believe that there has been an individual from the community that has offered to volunteer his time to be kind of the project coordinator for that, but it would be under the approval of our CBO. Okay? Any other questions or comments? Not normal, but Mr. Trimble, because you're one of the leads and going to be one of the co-chairs of the fundraising committee, speak up.
Be involved too. So once we kind of get the 100% go ahead here, we'll work with Brian on plans and back and forth to Nelson Dolly. And just talking to Brian a few minutes ago, we'll probably have to have him over to do any of the engineer inspections, just to make sure everything's, so they'll definitely be involved. It just won't be, all the onus won't be put on Brian.
Okay. Very good. Thanks, Don. So we'll be bringing that forward as a direct motion to name that committee, the fundraising committee, at that point in time on the agenda. Okay? All right. Carol.
Just to Dawn, if I could, I have a check for you for $500 from myself, since the arena was certainly one of my personal projects a couple of years ago, and I'd like you to add this to it. I started the arena one off with $500, but John beat me to it this time, but anyway, that's for your fundraising.
I'd say I feel more comfortable if you just, instead of going from Don to Carrie, just pass it to Carrie, Carol.
Well, it's actually made out to West Gray.
It's a nice amount of cash, but that goes to Western. Maybe please pull me over on the street. We'd like to have an official, once we get an official letter from you guys, an official press release. We've had a couple, and everybody keeps asking, but I want to make sure you get the horse ahead of the buggy here, do it right. And I've been telling me I had to get tax receipts, but I need to, if we had an official letter with West Gray's letterhead on, I think that would be ready to have this money. We want to try to raise it all before we really get into full gear.
That would be excellent. And speaking of that, Carrie, is there a problem with an individual that, for whatever reason, wanted to give us, make the donation in cash here? We can accept that. So cash is good still here at the municipality. Yeah. And we'll have the receipt for that and the tax receipt for it. Very good. Okay. So we'll have that come forward at on the agenda at direct motions. Excellent. Thank you, Don. And thank you. Down to reports from the committee. The first one, Carrie, you're with us this morning. Welcome. And the first one we have is the voucher listing 2413 is the first one. Is there any questions or comments on the voucher before we entertain the motion to pass? John, Councillor Deputy Mayor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Carrie, can we go to fire in Normanby? And I just want to be explain the proper protocol, or what's been done in the past. We have what's been done in the past. Excuse me. We have two.
Page 5, did you say?
Is that page 5?
Just real. You tell me.
It's Normanby Fire. Is it number 2?
Okay.
Okay. There was 2 memorials given to 2 individuals over there. And I just wonder what the protocol is, what the past history is. Are these firemen's parents that these memorials are given to?
I'd have to check with Phil. The names aren't familiar to me myself, but I could check with Phil and see what the connection is there.
Okay, and the reason I ask is I know Mr. Wepler fairly well, and I know he was a farmer. I wasn't aware that he was a fireman, but I don't know that. And I just wondered what that protocol is, recognizing that those are memorials, and I just want to make sure that everybody's treated the same more than anything. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Any other questions or comments on 24013? Councillor Marshall. Don.
Yes, I had that same question on that, Kerry, about that money, would that have been paid by the municipality, but the money initially comes from the firefighters?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't believe we've received a donation at this point from the firefighters, but if that's the intention, again, I'll have to speak with Phil on that. I don't know.
Okay. So I guess if it does come out of the fireman's budget, that should be part of some written down policy somewhere. I guess I have one more question about,
No, go ahead.
I guess it's to Ken, about the vac truck at Plumeville, cleaning the, I guess on page 3, cleaning the storm sewer out and a culvert. It said culvert there, Ken. Can you enlighten me on what culvert's cleaned out?
Yeah, there was a residence at McFarland Drive or Plumeville that had some storm water problems there, and there was the culvert was broke, or there was a pipe broke. It's kind of a unique situation down there with the drainage that comes from the backyards to the front yards, and we had to get a vacuum truck in and suck down and fix the pipe. It was on the road allowance, but it was in front of a residence there on the West Gray side.
Wasn't under a paved driveway, was it?
Beside a paved driveway, yeah.
And not underneath a paved driveway?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Bell, John?
Yeah, just real quick, just for enlightening geography, I guess. Ken, Cedar Valley View and 10th Side Road, where Sills do some snow removal. Whereabouts is Cedar Valley View?
It's just west of here, just off Gray Road 4. There's a loop that goes down in there, dead ends.
Sorry, okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, seeing none, then I have a motion moved by Rob Thompson and seconded by Don B. Marshall. Be it resolved that the Director of Finance Treasurer be authorized to pay the accounts presented as voucher number 24, 2013 of the Municipality of West Gray in the amount of $282,618.76. Any questions on this motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Declare that carried. Okay. Thank you, Carrie. The next one, we have a change order. Carrie, do you want to give us any more explanation on the change order on the elevator shaft at the Durham Arena, other than what's there?
Yeah, it has to do with the mechanical part of it. They're going to have to mount it on the roof and come up through the roof as opposed to whatever they were going to do originally. So they need to bust through the roof, but that's wasn't foreseen in the original contract that they'd have to do that.
Any questions? Don, go ahead.
It just baffles me, I guess, how they didn't realize this at first. You're putting in an elevator shaft, you tender on putting this elevator shaft. I think you want to know what you were tendering on to begin with. Like when we comment that we don't put solar panels up on the roof over the ring because we don't want to touch that rubber membrane, and then we punch a 10-foot hole through the roof. I'm only guessing it's 10 feet, but it could be more or less than that.
I can get Brian to, he knows more of the details of it. I'm not as familiar with the specific details, whether it was part of a design change with how the car rides up, or what is all involved, but I can get Brian if you want, you might be able to enlighten.
You don't have to. I'm just wondering why that, like, it's almost like you're taking we tendered on one car to begin with, and then they sort of switched technologies or whatever.
Mark? Councillor Rampe?
Carrie, I just had a question. I think we had a budget amount for this project at first, and I think the tender came in less? No? More? Okay, so my memory is even worse. So how do we fund the $5,000?
We had, when we had originally budgeted, we were planning on a 1/3 grant, and we did get a different grant. So instead of 33,000, we got 50,000. So, yeah, so between what our levy contribution, we'll still have enough room to budget or to fund it within that. But that's sort of that switch between the 33 and the 50, but we had budgeted based on only getting 33.
Okay,
So-
so it gets covered in,
Within our levy that we had originally budgeted.
okay, so there's no impact, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
The impact will be that our surplus at the end of 2013 will not be as much, will be $4,809.40 less, the surplus. But it's, yeah.
Increase.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on this? If not, I have a motion moved by Dave Mollison and seconded by Carol Lawrence. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves change order number 1 for the elevator shaft changes at the Durham Arena at a cost of $4,809.40 plus HST. Any further questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. $2014 budget approval, Carrie. You think you're ready to make this recommendation?
Well, we may have to amend it based on some changes. Our insurance, we were going to have them come and discuss some options with us. But if we do make any changes that way, we can just do an amendment to our budget bylaw at that point. But, you know, recognize if we do approve, if you're going to approve the warming area, just a matter of reallocating from, we had a transfer to reserve towards the project. So there might be a little bit of cleaning up that way, but other than that, it's should be ready to go for your consideration.
Is there any other drops in upper tier government funding that we know of? So we've got all the surprises that we're going to get so far? Excellent. Yeah, the surprises weren't excellent in the way of positive. Carol?
I just want to go back for a minute to that change order. I'm just wondering, breaking through the roof, just as Don was saying, what does that do to that membrane? Is our guarantee still on it? And
I'm assuming the
Yeah,
last time I talked to
Brian
Brian.
and the contractor have been, that's also one of sort of the delays with the project, is they've been in contact with the roof people to try to work through some of that before they go ahead and do it. I'm not sure what the status of that is, but I know they had been in contact with them to try to make sure that they do it without jeopardizing or degrading the integrity of it, if there is something.
right, okay. I just want to say too, I'm glad that we were proactive and put that elevator shaft in when we did the renovations, or it would be costing more and you'd be breaking into the hall and making an awful mess. This way, that's all been taken care of, and that's one of the reasons there was an additional cost on the original renovations, but saving money now.
In the long run, it's been very beneficial. Okay. The bylaw for the budget, getting back to the discussion point, will be coming up later in the meeting when we get to bylaws. Any further questions on the budget? Mark, Councillor Rapp.
Yeah, just a quick one. So Carrie, it states that the increase is 4.4%, and it lists the funding reduction, which we knew about. Is the 86,000 in that 4.4% or not? It is? Okay, that's what I want to check. All right, thanks.
Yeah, those two items there pretty much add up, so the rest of our budget is practically zero. Or within at least 0.1% of being at zero. And it's those two things there that are causing us the 4.4%. Now, when it's saying that, with the county not 100% yet, but what an individual out there will see is somewhere below 2% overall in Westgrave for this year on their overall tax blended rate.
Don't have
Go ahead.
the education rates from the province yet, so we're still kind of waiting for some of those to be finalized before we know what the overall tax rate impact might be. But it should be a bit lower because the county is anticipating a smaller increase.
Yes. And with a lot less students going to school and whatnot, we imagine that the Blue Water Board will be have a negative, their budget will be in the negative area. Well, there's got to be some positives in this somewhere along the line. Get everything going up. No, we're pretty positive there that we will end up at below a 2% increase on a blended rate overall. Anything else, Carrie, that you have for us this morning? Oh, very good. Well, thank you very much, and we'll be looking for that bylaw coming up later in the agenda. Mr. Gould doesn't have anything for us. Must have been off on vacation for a couple of days, shoveling snow and whatnot. So, thank you, Ken. Clerk, CEO's report. Mark, you've got a number of things. Oh, sorry, Ken, hold on before you.
Just one.
Before you get out, maybe Councillor Marshall has a question.
Just
Don.
when are they doing the snow downtown, Ken?
This week I was talking to Steve, he's getting a hold of the contractor there, so, yeah.
Okay, that will be asked. I'm sure that will be asked. Yeah, I wanted an answer from them. Yep, thank you.
I guess the better question, Ken, would be, can you tell us when the snow will stop?
Sounds like later this week, possibly.
June 3rd.
Yeah.
I like Ken's answer quite a bit better than I like.
Mine's more realistic.
Well, if it doesn't stop until June 3rd, I don't want to be in your reality either, Councillor Cuddy. I was hoping by April we could see the end of the snow, but it has been difficult. Commend the boys out there. The operators, Ken, have been doing a great job in keeping the roads passable and cleaned and safe to drive on, so that's good. And some of that ice is finally coming off where we don't have it quite as bouncy out there either, but difficult conditions to work in, and commend the guys for doing the work that they do out there early in the morning.
Yeah, I'll certainly pass that on. Thanks.
Appreciate that. Okay, Mark. Ken, move quickly before somebody else grabs hold of you. Mark, start with the County of Lambton. Do we have a motion here to support the County of Lambton, and that's dealing with the CBOs and the continuous requalification? I wondered if there's a number of provincial legislative things that are coming down. As the province, do we redesignate all the teachers, nurses, doctors, emergency staff that the province employs? And Mark, go ahead.
In fact, they do not, and that's basically the rationale for this resolution, is that there sort of may be made an exception that they have to requalify, as opposed to all these other positions that you've mentioned that they do not need to requalify when there's new regulations or legislation. So it does seem rather unfair, and it will incur certainly costs and a lot of stress and aggravation for CBOs and building officials.
Well, I just see this as a money grab by the province, really?
By the ministry, yes.
Yeah.
I think it's
like,
just...
It's just another way to grab more money.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should support the resolution.
Okay. Any other comments before I introduce the resolution on this? Seeing none at this point, I have a motion moved by Don B. Marshall and seconded by John A. Bell. Be it resolved that the Council of Municipality of West Grey hereby supports the resolution of Lambton County Council opposing the requalification of building officials under Ontario Regulation 332-12 and the Ontario Building Code, and further that a supporting letter be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and the County of Lambton. Any questions or comments on this motion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Just further to the west. Okay. Township of Mulmer. Mark, do you want to?
Yeah, I've indicated that council may wish to support this resolution. I can understand MPAC's rationale as well. A building permit issuance is a tangible document that will say exactly when the building permit was issued, whereas if a building's on site without a building permit, they're sort of relying on the municipality's input to say when the building was and how can you determine that if it's contested. It might be a bit of an issue, but it is something I think council may wish to consider because it will provide hopefully some extra assessment to the municipality for buildings that have been perhaps illegally placed on a property.
Mark, Councillor Rumpke.
Do we know what, if someone does build a building without a building permit, what are the consequences of that? Like, rather than looking at it as a tax, is there some sort of fine structure or?
Go ahead, Mark.
I do believe the building department will, if they can get a building permit, if it meets all the requirements for a building permit, they may actually double the fee. They can double the fee if it was built without a permit. They may require an engineer to determine that it's properly built and constructed, or if it was built, for instance, in a natural environment zone, which doesn't permit it, a dwelling, it may have to be removed, or it will have to be removed otherwise.
It doesn't happen often, Mark, but I know that there was one, and I'm not sure whether it was Oakville or Burlington, that was built without all the approvals. I think they had a building permit, but there was other approvals that weren't, and they went ahead and built it anyways, and that was removed. There are legislative authorities that we can do that. Carol, Councillor Lawrence.
Well, it used to be, and Mark can tell me if it's changed, but it used to be that after a year, I think, Mark, you couldn't, you had to accept it, you couldn't do anything about it. Has that changed?
It has changed in that it's after a year that the municipalities identify that it was built. It used to be if it was built, I think it's a year or two, and even if you weren't aware of it, and it was after, I think it's 2 years, there was maybe some legal grandfathering that might be debatable whether you could take any action.
But has that gone then?
Yeah, it has changed so that once the municipality knows about it, it basically has a year to act.
Okay.
Is that one of her?
Okay. I have a motion moved by Bev Cutting and seconded by David Mollison. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby supports the resolution of Mulmer Township Council respecting the assessment by the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, MPAC, of buildings built without building permit. And further, there's a supporting letter be forwarded to local MPPs and the Township of Mulmer. And would the mover and seconder go along to adding impact as well too? Chair Dan Matheson, what's the impact? You fine with that, Dave? Thank you. Okay, it's friendly. Any other questions or comments on the resolution? Don? Councillor
Just a
Mark?
clarification, so if I build a house at the back of my farm, and a year later Brian couldn't come in and issue me a permit to put for that, so so if they went out and found all these places that were not permitted and issued them a permit, that would not impact come in and assess them? You know, they're going to issue them, they've been up for a year.
They will assess them at the time they become aware of it, but they won't retroactively to the 2-year prior. That's what MOMER's looking at.
That's what they're looking for, is a
Yes.
2-year retroactive, okay. Yep.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, sorry, so they're asking for the 2 years previous, but how do you establish when they completed construction and moved in? Like, that's the problem I'm having with this motion is, I understand what they're trying to do, but I think the way to address this is more through a fee, like penalties or fines, not through trying to establish a date when they move in, and so that's my problem.
Go ahead, Mark.
And that's why I sort of made a caveat to it. The letter from MOMER seems to infer that they can prove when it was built, when it was occupied. So I guess the burden of proof, if it became an assessment appeal, would be on MPAC ultimately, but MOMER would have to, I guess, be a party to that.
So if it was contested, how is that, if the owner said I didn't move in on that date, who, did they appeal to?
They appeal to MPAC. There's an
To
assessment
MPAC.
appeal process, forms you'd fill out, and there'd be a hearing.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. So if that can get MPAC's attention and the ministry and give them direction, maybe they'll find some trailers that are out there on vacant land as well, too. Okay, the next one, Mark, is old friend Bill Verbosch from East Ferris. And East Ferris is having a bit of trouble with the small rural and northern municipal infrastructure fund and the gambling way that it happens. Any comments or any further explanation on this? The lottery system? Seeing none, I have a motion moved by Rob Thompson and seconded by John A. Bell. Be it resolved that the Council and Municipality of West Grey hereby supports the concerns expressed in the letter dated October 16, 2013 from the Municipality of East Ferris respecting the small rural and Northern Municipal Infrastructure Fund, and further that a supporting letter be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Minister of Rural Affairs, the Minister of Infrastructure, and the Minister of Transportation, and the Municipality of East Ferris. Well, you know, Bill Verbosch has been the chair of Roma for a number of years, and has been very active with AMO as well, too. Any other questions? Mark?
Not a question, just a comment. I did read this, and I think what he's saying makes a lot of sense in that when we think of small rural and northern municipal infrastructure fund, places that have 100,000 population really don't fit into what I would think most people's standard definition of that is. So I think it's whatever he's putting forward makes a lot of sense, so I think it makes sense to support it.
Carol? Councillor Lawrence?
Well, I just see one of the reasons, which is what we were told, your reserves are too high or we don't owe any money. Like that, you're being penalized for good management. That's exactly what's happening.
Yes.
And that is ridiculous. I think it should just be a set amount like the gas tax or whatever that you know that's coming each year and not have to scramble and spend money to get this expression of interest. It's
Yep. so in the lottery system.
Is
proud of a hat.
AMO going to take this forward, this whole issue, do you know?
That I'm not, I can't say. Don't know whether AMO is going to be pushing more towards that.
Or-
Obviously, their consultation fell on deaf ears the first time around, so
Obviously, but I think it should be pursued.
it'll be something, able to get a hold of Russ Powers and a few of the other individuals at the board, and Pat Vanini at the
Yeah, the AMO.
Good Roads AMO OGRA conference, and be able to get some discussion there and see what we're going to do for sustainable funding.
Would this be something that a joint delegation to the ministry should perhaps be explored at the Good Roads Conference? Like, I'm sure all rurals, all small rurals would be on board for it.
What I would suggest, because they have had access, the Western Ontario Wardens Committee, it should be something that they usually meet, not usually, they do meet on Sunday afternoons or Sunday morning with the ministries, sit down with a number of the ministers, and it should be something on the Western Ontario Wardens agenda. And I'll suggest that to the past chair and the new county warden to bring that forward as one of the things for them to discuss. Good point. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question then. All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Okay. Sorry, Mark. It's too many screens up here. The next one, yep. The next one is on the Grey County Planning and Community Development Committee concerning the land use planning and the appeal system and the development charge consultation. Any questions or comments on this? And they're asking for support of the new regulations in appealing planning reports and whatnot. And this has been passed by the Planning Committee and will be at County Council if the weather holds up for tomorrow. Okay. Seeing there's no questions or comments on it, it was a pretty extensive report and a pretty extensive an extensive part to it. There's been some small changes. They're nothing tremendously major, but there are some small changes that are being asked for and being looked at. I have a motion moved by Mark Rapke and seconded by Bev Cunning. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby supports the comments contained in Grey County Planning and Community Development Committee Report, PDR PCD 0314, concerning provincial land use planning and appeal system and the development charges consultation. And further, that a supporting letter be forwarded to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing and the County of Grey. Any questions or comments further on this? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. And the next one, Mark, is dealing with the new county warden. Has put out a letter as far as coming and bringing a State of the Union speech to all the lower tiers. Doing a little bit more of a change and having that, from what I understand, at the Warden's Forum. Unless we want to see the warden and ask him some questions, we can still invite him down. The letter is in the package. Any comments or questions or thoughts on that? Councillor Lawrence. Carol?
Well, I think it's a good idea, and certainly we should try it. I mean, that's kind of, we get motherhood statements kind of when they come here, and, you know, kind of warm and fuzzy and feel-good sort of thing. I think to make it more meaningful, if that was developed here, but I think it would take more than just from 4 o'clock on, or whatever it is, for Warden's Forum. Like, it would have to be probably a full day, but I think it would be more beneficial and more meaningful, and certainly if if each municipality could put their issues or concerns or questions forward to be brought up.
Yeah, I think, development on that Warden's Forum, I believe, is good, but the lower tiers have got to be a little more responsible and come forward with just not off-the-cuff questions, put something forward that's going into that, and have the discussion and feedback at the Warden's Forum will probably be better for it.
Probably with the same sort of, can I say, procedure that we do with meeting with the ministries at Good Roads and AMO, you know, on maybe a lesser scale, but develop briefs and send them in, and everybody then could see them. Yeah.
Agree with you, and Mark, if there's any other questions or comments on that? Don, Councillor Marshall.
Are they still pushing ahead with the other program that, I think Lance mentioned that a couple of years ago, that if a municipality had an idea they wanted to put to the county, that they would review it and then send it back to us with their comments, and remember that?
Yes, West Gray was the first one to put something forward in asking for a county library card system.
Yep.
The CEO is still working on that. There was supposedly a report just before Christmas, November, but time restraints, and it's been put off. We'll see it here in the first quarter, but yeah, those things are still on the bucket, that throw something into the bucket and see where it comes to on that type of an aspect.
Okay.
All right. Okay, I'll have Mark feed that back and send off an email to Penny or Lance or Warden Millen. The next one, bylaw 32, 2007, which is the remuneration committee. The way that is stated, that it would be instituted every 4 years in January of an election year. And Mark is wondering what, I think that's why we have it here, is what's council's thought on that? Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, as noted in my report, council did choose not to appoint a remuneration committee for the last election year in 2010. So I'm not sure what direction council wishes this time. As you're aware, council's approved basically the increase, 1.5%, I believe, increase to the per diem honorarium, which is in the budget if passed. So I'll leave it to council.
Any thoughts? Bev, Councillor Cuddy.
I do believe it should be probably put in this year, as it's to do with the new council coming in next year. I don't know where we are in comparison with other municipalities, but I do believe that it is a 3/4 of a full-time job, not a part-time job anymore, and I do think that it should be looked at for the benefit of new councillors next year. Doesn't mean we have to accept the recommendations, it just means that recommendations can be given, and
Mark, Councillor Rathke.
Well, we are changing the structure of council next year. We're going from 9 to 7, and there's a few other, I'd say, significant changes in the way council's going to be moving forward starting next year. So we have a bylaw for it. It would make sense that we would do that next year. Otherwise, I don't know why we would have the bylaw, I suppose, if we're not going to keep using it. But I think next year makes sense to have it reviewed, given the amount of change that's being introduced.
That would be this year.
Sorry, this year. Yeah, sorry. I tripped over the calendar. Yeah.
Come on back to 14.
This year. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, this year.
Very good. I think Mark has have a motion for that.
I do have a motion, just, I think the last time a remuneration committee was appointed, and I believe there was some advertisement in the paper, and there were, I think, 5 committee members appointed. So is that, if that's the way you wish to proceed, I do have a motion to place an ad in the West Grey Progress, post the ad on the West Grey website for the purpose of seeking individuals interested in the being appointed as a member of the West Grey Remuneration Committee. And I suspect I think I did include the terms of reference in the bylaw for the last committee, and I suspect those might stay the same. They weren't paid for that committee work. So unless that changes, that's the way. We can address that later in the process too, but that's the way I guess I would put the ad in, that it would not be a paid committee.
Okay, any comments? Carol?
Well, I just want to say it wasn't 5, it's 7 in the bylaw here. Yeah.
So you wish 7 committees and 7 members?
Well, I think we could advertise for up to 7 members.
Yeah, up to 7.
If you get 5, you get 6.
You're looking for a mix of background experience and knowledge, eh? So.
Correct. Any other comments on this? I think it's timely to do, as Councillor Rapke has just said, with council going down to 7. I think Councillor Cutting has said it as well too, getting a comparison of where we're at. I do believe that if we were just looking at Grey County, we're on the lower end in that. Well, at one point in time we were in the middle, but back in 2007, that's what we moved it to, was about the middle, but I don't think we've done much adjusting to it, so I'm pretty sure that we've fallen into the lower half of it. Mark?
Would it be fair to say it's been 7, if we didn't do it in 2010, I imagine the one prior to that was, so it's been 8 years, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know when we had but I don't know the last committee.
2006 was the
2006, so that's 8 years. So I think it's probably time that we have it reviewed.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, there's more years that we did not take a cost of living increase than we did. There's been very few that we've increased it.
Exactly correct. Okay. Any other questions on it? Then I'll introduce the motion. I have a motion moved by Mark Rapke and seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that the Council and Municipality of West Grey hereby directs the clerk, acting CEO, to place an advertisement in the West Grey Progress and post the advertisement on the West Grey website for the express purpose of seeking individuals interested in being appointed as a member of the West Grey Remuneration Committee. Any further comments on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, hold on.
maybe council. I don't.
No.
You probably just, council can probably decide that.
I'm thinking that the bylaw says up to 7, so we may, I'm wondering, if we put the number in, or, well, the
bylaw will change because the members will change.
The members will change and everything of that, but if we put 7 and you only got 5, then would we have to? Yeah, so I'm thinking with just that at the time when we get the resumes in, we can go from there. Okay. Mark has just pointed out the West Grey Remuneration Committee. We should say the West Grey Council Remuneration Committee. So if the mover and seconder are okay with me adding that in, okay. Thank you. Any other comments? I'm calling the question now. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Next one, number 6, Mark, Municipal Affairs. And Lance, Grey County CEO, has forwarded an email where he's trying to, on behalf of the CEO of Grey Highlands, dealing with the Grey Bruce Health Services. And I believe that will be more on the push towards the Markdale Hospital. And with our consideration, I think Lance is looking for a letter from West Grey to see if we can get that delegation and be part of the delegation with the Minister Matthews at the conference. Any questions, John?
Yeah, just for a little clarification, this originally was thought that the municipality of Grey Highlands and some municipalities in this area would be wanting to do this, but this has been done before, as some other members have sat in on those conversations, and we thought it would have more clout if it came from the county, with the lower tiers supporting the county taking the lead on this, but the county, or with the lower tiers also providing feedback in that. And I know Mayor Eccles has sat in on those conversations before, and I think it's very worthwhile. But yeah, the county, I think, should take the lead on it, with the municipality supporting the county.
Carol?
Just wondered why it's just West Grey and Grey Highlands. Why wasn't Southgate involved there? Like, they're very closely linked to using that facility. Yeah, I think they should be.
And I noticed that too. It's, well, the two, because there's 4 municipalities really that are in that township of
Yeah.
Chatsworth as well too.
Right. But they're very directly, like a lot of their residents, unless they go to Orangeville, you know, it's,
Well, a few of them go to Mount Forest, and a lot of them come to Durham.
yeah, I know, but
Yeah, both those two, and I can ask that question tomorrow at county on how this one goes, as to why it only seemed to be Grey Highlands and West Grey. We can go from there.
okay, thanks.
Bev?
Has Chatsworth and Southgate committed any funds to the building? Do you
Yes.
know? Well, in that case, they're
They're
definitely...
both in, yeah, I know that.
Well, I would say then in that
Yeah.
case, they definitely should be included in that delegation.
Unless the email was just BB'd, I don't, you know, I'm not sure just why it is the way it is there.
Well,
But
I
anyway,
just like to say, I hope John is right, that there'll be more clout, because I think we've had 2 meetings with Minister Deb Matthews, and sounding very positive each time, and here we sit.
yeah. Okay. Do you want to give direction for Mark to draft up a letter of support? Any resolution for that? No, just a direction.
Yes.
Yep. Anybody have any negative on that? Consensus? Consensus, we'll ask Mark to draft up a letter. Now, the other question out of that comes, is there any other delegations, because it's January the 17th that the delegations have to be in to the ministries? I'm trying to think of the ministry that's setting it up. There's a process that it gets, it goes through municipal affairs, is it?
Yeah.
It's one of the ministries anyways, that will be looking at it. Do we want any do we want any delegations or require any delegations request? Carol?
You know what, I can't pull it, but we talked at this table about that would be a good subject that we should meet with at Good Roads with the minister, and I can't remember what was in relation to, but it was said at our table here a while ago. Maybe Don remembers.
Councillor Marshall, Don?
One was the source water protection funding, and another one was accessibility and funding, as Mark has brought up a number of times, about how, maybe not even funding, but how far they're going to push the Accessibility Act.
Do we want to put forward a request for that? You are correct on both of those, Don, and there was a third one that we talked about, was MTO, and their downloading of connecting links. We have a small bridge on Garifraxa at the bottom of the hill that will be needing some maintenance work, and from my understanding, I'm not certain whether there's any funding coming with that download on the connecting link. So I think a meeting with MTO would be very much in the dealings and seeing what, are they going to keep the bridge, or we've got all kinds of streets to go around it. I guess we could just close it. It is a suggestion, Don. We're getting too many of the Lambton, the county bridges. So here comes one from the county, from the province. That would be my suggestion, the one for MTO to on this connecting link, and get a better idea of where we are there with that. Councillor Cuddick. Bev?
The delegation request on January 17th, have we considered again approaching the MOE and the MNR concerning our unwilling host status and our concerns with wind turbines? A broken record, but I think that the more they hear, and from more municipalities, maybe this message will finally sink in that this is not something that rural Ontario is willing to put up with.
Participate in. I believe in the, from my understanding anyways, the next round, that it will be highly considered. Any municipalities that are unwilling hosts that have fit contract will be dubious. But it's your concern is more in retro than going forward. And
well, and
we can put in the application. We can put in the request.
There are a number of concerns that we have over the applications and the way it's being pushed through, et cetera, and I think we should bring those to the MOE and the MNR.
I don't know whether that's possible or not to have a joint meeting, Mark, but let's be a leader. See if we can find one with the
two of them on one round.
Councillor Lawrence. Carol?
Well, I agree with Bevan. Although we've had lots of back and forth, not sure the message has got through to the ministers. It might be a chance to get right to the top on our concerns. And if we can't get a joint meeting, we go for two.
Yeah,
one
for
with
two separate
individual meetings.
Okay. All right. Any other ones? Councillor Rapke.
Just the Municipality of East Ferris letter that we endorsed today, that whole idea of stabilized infrastructure funding. Is there a delegation, like is that through, is AMO going with that, or is that, I don't know how these delegations work.
I think that, I mean, delegations are more under concern of a local concern. AMO is very much involved with that at the present moment on how that distribution or rollout of that small rural northern fund goes. And they're still working with it. Well, it might be instead of being a delegation at the conference, might be just as strong to get yourself to a microphone, an individual get to the microphone and ask the Minister of Finance directly how are they going to continue with the lottery system, or is it going to be sustainable funding to small and rural municipalities in northern.
Would it be worthwhile even just sending a note to the East Ferris with our endorsement, asking if they're planning a delegation during that at all? Or like, I think I agree with what you're saying. I was just curious if it would be brought up because it is a big issue. Like we can just ask. We don't have to be a delegation. I was just more curious than anything. But.
Yeah, and the other factor is, you know, I'd be asking the Western Ontario wardens to
Okay.
take the lead on that as well,
Okay.
too. I think
As long
that'd
as there's
be better.
someone
Yeah.
pursuing it, I think it's an important topic for all of the small rural.
Knowing Mr. Verbosch the way I do, it's going to
He's
get,
gonna take care of it? Okay.
it'll be discussed many times
Right.
with the ministers before
Okay, no, that's good.
before we get to good roads, let alone
Yeah.
bad good roads. Yeah.
Okay, good, thanks.
All right. Any other questions or comments on delegations? That's pretty much got Mark. If we got half of those, we would be doing very well. Okay? The other factor is, as Carol had said earlier, understand that it puts, we do put a bit of pressure on staff to put together briefing notes and reports, but we'll see what we can do. Okay? Well, I think we've got direction on that. The proposed OPP billing. Does anybody have a problem with that one? Other than West Gray's of Section 31, we have our own municipal force, and according to the paper, we'll be expanding into Chatsworth shortly, so. Taking over Grey County, as Councillor Mollison's saying here. We see there is an awful lot of discussion going on out there. I find it difficult because there was an OPP information session this is for council's information, 3 weeks before, about the 30th November, 1st of December, in Owen Sound, and West Grey was invited to go. The Police Services Board, Bev and I believe, well, we had
another meeting here.
we had a meeting here. Our other two members of the board went and were rejected at the door. We're Section 31. We had no authority to be there. We weren't invited, and the two members were sent home. The door was closed to them, although we did have an invitation. But if you weren't from an OPP board, you weren't allowed in through the door. And I know the media was also restricted from that meeting as well, too. So, from West Gray's perspective, yeah, we're pretty shut out of the OPP. I don't know if we even bother talking about it. Carol?
Well, Mr. Mayor, personally, I would have a hard time making comments or voting or on anything to do with this because I don't have any knowledge of what's being discussed. And so, you know, I don't know how we could take a stand on it one way or the other. And secondly, we're not interested in OPP. So.
Very much so. Yeah. It is a great, you know, it is a big concern for a lot of municipalities out there, but our municipality, and even if you have been studying the reports, it's very fluid. It changes from day to day coming out of Aurelia. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, Don. Councilor Marshall.
Now, the OPP is an arm of the Ontario government, which is directed through correctional services.
Yes, Community Safety and Correctional Services.
Who is the one that reaches out and grabs this by the neck and reels it in? Who has the authority? Like these increases they're saying in here are from, yeah, well, 168% one, I think, was 900 and some thousand to 3 million or something. It's insane. So
No.
the municipality should just say, we can't afford it, we're not going to have policing.
But then it's mandated to have, so, you know, that's the problem. The province is mandating what you have to have, time, amount of police per, you know, all that. Those are under regulations, and then they're just handing you a bill for a regulation that you have to have it. and not just a standard bill sort of thing that people are used to. You know, as you said, 168% increase for one small municipality. How on earth do people do that? It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It is totally, but I don't know unless the corrections, Ministry of Corrections actually sits down and looks through this and receives these letters and takes them seriously and looks them over. I don't know how you would stop it at this point. Just they have to band together and fight. All municipalities with OPP policing have to band together and take this to good roads or whatever and get this, get this public knowledge. Because I don't think the public has any idea the amount of tax increases that'll have to happen if this occurs. It'll be huge.
Yeah, so there should be over 400 municipalities at good roads out there standing at the front of their door.
Yep, absolutely.
And there should be nobody, if they have a booth set up down there, there should be nobody stop at their booth.
Yep.
Make it a point just to walk by, everybody,
Yep.
and snub them until they change their tune.
Part of the, if I can make one comment, part of the insanity, as you said, Don, really started 2000, 2001, when amalgamation happened, and there was, how are they going to be in contract policing? The OPP went and bought a lot of those contracts to simplify it. They did not put in a cost recovery for the services that they were delivering, and it's had a lot of municipalities believing that they were paying, but they were paying $900,000 and getting $3 million worth of service. The OPP have finally recognized that, and the provincial government has recognized it and said, well, no, you're going to pay what you're getting. It's not a profit center here, but you're going to pay what you've been getting. And it's caught everybody by surprise that, in West Grey, and I know that there has been some concerns about where and you've brought some of them forward too, what our cost of policing is, but you have the absolute cost of what the policing is. These OPP contracts have never given less than 40% of what an OPP contract is costing. 40% of the revenue is coming back from the contract municipalities out of that. Somebody has finally caught on to that. It's taken 10 to 12 years, 14 years to catch on. Now the bills are starting to come, and it's a big increase. And other than letting the OPP go back to what they were doing and reorganizing it again, but I don't know where it's going to go. I do not know. It's way out of hand, but there's going to be somebody pay the bill at the end of the day, and I don't feel comfortable that West Grey residents who have a very good sustainable policing and law enforcement have also, through our provincial tax dollars, paying for OPP policing out there for Southgate and East Ferris and a number of other municipalities. Carol.
I just want to say I'm so thankful and grateful that we did go with our own force at the time of amalgamation. It was certainly a good, about the best decision we could have made, and I firmly believe we have much better service from our own force than that people do that are on OPP.
Mark, Councillor Ramke.
I'll just say, like, the whole, in response to Don, I mean, this is really nothing more than a massive downloading of cost to the municipalities. When you think about policing, what are they enforcing? Federal and provincial statutes, right, which are controlled by higher tiers of government. They do some of our bylaw enforcement, but largely the largest part of their activity is that. It's all mandated, it's all run by the province in the case of the OPP, and they just ask the municipalities to foot the bill with absolutely no input on how to that amount of money is spent or managed. So really, like in answer to your question, this is just a massive, massive downloading to try and push the funding down to the municipal level.
But I hear what you're saying, and we in West Grey are covering the costs, full costs of our own police, but at the same time, our taxes provincially are going to subsidize these other ones. So in fairness to those that have their own police forces, it makes sense that those that are getting the service are paying the cost of it.
But the actual fact is, where we're legislated to be today, we can't afford what is out there. There's got to be a change in that legislation, as Bev said, whether we go to 1 policeman per 1,000 population instead of the 500 that's mandated. You know, 1 police service for Ontario or something. Done.
So if this, you're talking about the fees for service in here, and I heard that in the radio for Brockton, and that is, if we have a hostage taking or something in West Grey and the OPP have to come in, are they now going to charge us a fee for that, or are we still grandfathered under this old clause that we've been riding on, that they don't charge us?
There is no grandfathering. They have had the capacity or the ability or the legislative authority to bill us for any support that they've garnered in the past or we've requested. One thing that has happened though, the statistic is about 50% of the provincial highway investigations, accidents and whatnot are done by West Grey. There's no OPP. We look after, we've helped them out, and any time that we've requested OPP, they have not billed us. So going forward, will they be? I don't know. But I guess if they do, then it'll be, we have the authority to bill them as well too. And it's, you know,
The same rate.
it becomes a bit of a vicious circle, but so far, you know, and they've been, you're right, it's in the administration, the officers themselves, you know, we all know OPP officers, we all know they're doing good things for the community and whatnot, but at the price that it's coming at to deliver that service, the communities can't afford it. And that's where we're at. Okay? On this one, you know, because it's OPP, and I agree with Carol, it's so in-depth, we have difficulty looking after a number of other things and something that doesn't concern us whatsoever. So we'll, I think we should just receive this one and as information. Okay, good with that? Anything else, Mark? Okay. If I'm not mistaken, I think we're down to bylaws. If I'm correct on that. Okay. Mark has said that we'll go on to bylaws now. I don't know whether Mark really said that, but we're going to go on to bylaws. So I'll have you hand those ones out, Mark. Yeah. So we'll hand out those motions to, on to bylaws.
This is the one just signed the Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start with bylaw number 1, 2014. This deals with the proceedings that have gone on in 2013 to give those and coming forward. I have a motion moved by Rob Thompson, seconded by John A. Bell. Be it resolved that bylaw number 1, 2014, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. And this is an annual bylaw that we put in place. Is there any questions or comments on bylaw number 1? Call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? That one's carried. Okay.
Some amendments here to this one.
Bylaw number 2 is a bylaw to sell municipal property in the former township of Bentic, the Dornoch Hall, and there has been a couple of amendments to that. Mark, can you reference those?
Yeah, just had our municipal solicitor just very briefly review it, and he had a couple word changes, so that section 1 we'll read that the municipality of West Grey hereby, instead of just enters, we'll have hereby confirms formally entering into an agreement of purchase, and then after inclusive of HST, just add and the completion of such sale. So those are some of the few word changes there.
Okay. Still, biggest thing is that the hall is going to be sold and is put into a residential zoning. I have a motion moved by David Mollison and seconded by Mark Rapke. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2, 2014, being a bylaw to confirm the sale of municipal property described as Plan 70, Part Lots 7 and 8, WGR, PIN 37224-0133, former Township of Bentic, now be read a first, second, and third time, passed as amended and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Is there any questions or comments on this motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. All right. Okay. Bylaw number 3 is a bylaw about an obstruction of sidewalks. Any questions or comments on the, before I introduce? Deputy Mayor Bell.
Yeah, just real quick. Okay, and we see it's on the bylaw here, so this in no way says anything about a couple of tables from Chicory Common on the sidewalk, or kids' lemonade stand being out on the sidewalk or anything like that, so this is just strictly snow. Thank you.
Snow or snow particles as in ice. Yeah.
Falling right now.
Don, Councillor Marshall.
What happens when the snow plow or the sidewalk plow puts snow back into the driveways? Well, hey, it's a two-way street here. You put snow onto their property from our sidewalk, it tears the muffler off their car, or they come out and trip over it walking out to the sidewalk. Who's liable?
Probably be a court of law will tell us who's liable.
Yeah, just throwing it out there, this is a two-way street here, and just because the municipality has the right to pass a bylaw, and the property owner does not. And I know there's some people that infringe on that and throw all their snow out on the sidewalk just because they can, and
Yeah, but pushing it off to the edge of the sidewalk, it's still on municipal property. That's on our property.
inside the
Because-
sidewalk.
Yeah, because there is anywhere from, I believe it is a foot mark to, could be 3 or 4 feet. It's one of those ones, and I think our staff do a very good job, especially when they're blowing, sometimes when they're not scraping, of directing that blower away from it. Does it happen on occasions, especially a couple of weeks ago, or a week and a half or 2 weeks ago when we were looking at that ice and whatnot? But we're depositing it on our property, so
Yeah, I've just heard stuff.
I've seen stuff
Everybody
as
else.
well too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it. it's one of those, where's, the individual property owner's responsibility as well, too. If that's where they want their driveway, you're going to have some impediments that, you're going to have to be responsible for, too. Yeah. We'll try as long as we get some cooperation with us. Carol?
Well, I was just going to say, you would hope that those people, that common sense would prevail, and they would shovel it and throw it back onto their lawn rather than back out on the sidewalk. Like, could get a, just common sense tells you.
They probably ever clean their driveway out, and then when the plow comes down, it comes down with the plow instead of the blower. Then all this hard stuff goes back into the driveway.
As I said, so you shovel it off onto your own lawn instead of sending it.
Oh, we all know that common sense isn't that common anymore either. Need some education towards that. Okay. I have a motion moved by John A. Bell and seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 3, 2014, being a bylaw for prohibiting the obstruction or encumbering of sidewalks within the municipality of West Grade, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any further questions or comments on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Mark, what were you mentioning? Sorry.
So the plan is that since council has passed this, currently it only allows, in terms of fining and then going through the provincial offences court to reclaim it. Speaking to Chief Berger, what we are planning to do, or I'm planning to do at the next council meeting, is pass a new bylaw, same type of thing, requirement, but it'll be a short form wording so that they can just issue a ticket. But that takes time through the Attorney General's office to get approval. So if council deems appropriate to pass it on January 20th, it'll come in force in effect when the Attorney General's office approves the short form wording. So it'll be much easier for the police to deal with it. So. That will be determined, yeah. We'll have to.
I think we'll have a recommendation from the chief, and I'm not sure, what he's going to come up with, whether it be $50, $150, or $5. We'll see, but it'll be up to us to put it in place. But then again, it'll be the province, it'll be the ones that'll say, yeah, from the Attorney General, Meg, to be able to tell us whether they'll go for it or not. Okay? Bylaw number 4. This one is bylaw for setting the tax levies for 2014. Basically, the Director of Finance and Council's budget for the year. I have a motion moved by Carol Lawrence and seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that bylaw number 4, 2014, being a bylaw to provide for interim tax levies for the year 2014 for the municipality of West Grade, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions or comments on this motion? We've had quite a few discussions at finance meetings, so. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. 6, 7, and 8. Yeah, got it. Bylaw number 5 is bylaw authorizing for the borrowing of money. And I don't believe that we have any borrowed right now. This is basically to set up a overdraft or line of credit that is done on an annual basis for us. And don't believe in 2013 we needed to access that. from about 98%. Yeah, which, when we apply for provincial or federal funding, we end up being penalized because we didn't access our borrowings. Thanks, Bev. I have a motion moved by John A. Bell and seconded by Don B. Marshall. Be it resolved that bylaw number 5, 2014, being a bylaw authorizing the borrowing of money to meet current expenditures of the Council of the Municipality of West Grey be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions or comments on this bylaw? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next one is bylaw number 6, dealing with our contract for our bylaw enforcement and property standards. And any comments, Mark?
Yeah, just for both bylaws 6 and 7 regarding Mr. McKinnon's services as a contracted employee. The only changes are that the West Grey, the Director of Building Services, CBO, mentioned a slight change in the section referred to in the Building Code Act. And then the other change is in the agreement itself. It used to be a yearly, right now it's a yearly contract, and it's renewable by written consent of both parties. It was supposed to have been done end of December. It was missed, so I've got the bylaws before you. We had discussed that, and we felt it didn't really make any difference whether it's a one-year contract or just solely a contract. And so that would dispense of the need to remember each year to renew it. But we did retain basically the termination of this 60 days, and that has been agreeable by Mr. McKinnon, and the building official supports it too. So that's the only changes to the bylaws.
Okay. Any further questions?
You're on 6.
6 right now.
You're 6, okay, sorry.
Yep, bylaw number 6. Yep. Okay, I have a motion moved. Sorry, Don? Councillor Marshall, before I move it.
Yeah, this one here, it's only been a few short years now. We used to have one CBO, and then now we have a CBO, an assistant CBO, and now we're hiring or extending for a temporary or a contract CBO. The December permits was 16 of 2011. 2012 we're down to 8. This year we're down to 4. The overall for December, or for the 3 years previous, we're down extensively to the workload, from 48 to 64 to 26. I just wonder why we have to hire on more help.
Well, just to clarify, even when we had one CBO, Mr. McKinnon was on as our environmental contract and some bylaw enforcement factors. The other part of it, though, is that, yes, doing some building inspector work, but the other two, because the building 2011 or 2012 was at a higher level, a couple of those other jobs were less prioritized, I guess is the best way to put it. Property standards, we know that there's a backlog there, so it's not so much hiring on. Yeah, we have one more employee, but we don't have, this is not a new employee. This will allow our Mr. McKinnon to still stay employed and cover off some of those things that have slipped because our building department was overloaded with buildings, construction, and development that's happened within the community in the last 2 years.
I have no doubt that it was overloaded 2 years ago, but now with the downsizing of the construction that's going out there, that there should be more time to spend on property standards with our 2 full-time municipal employees.
That, you know, I guess would be to be seen. I know that it seems like there's a number of buildings that are being proposed and whatnot coming out there. Are we too, I would say that to your cutting the contract right now without seeing what is coming along, if this is a trend that is going down, I would say probably I would agree with you, but I think it's a little early or premature at this point in time to have that taken into consideration for 2014, Don. Mark?
Just wanted to check, Mark, you said that we've changed now from it being a yearly contract to being open-ended. And I'm just wondering if we should, for this particular one, do it 1 year and then discuss that whole thing, and we could also discuss maybe in committee a whole, just the amount of work that a contract employee is, not even this one particular one, but the amount of work that one of those does and how that would relate to potentially whether it's contract or what the laws a little bit more specifically around that are, because if you assign someone to an open-ended contract, I'm not sure that that doesn't constitute something more than a contract position. I just think it'd be worth discussing it. I'm not saying that I know, but we should pursue that. And just all I'd like to see is for this particular one, we leave it at a year and just discuss that so we know that in committee maybe. So just a few more details. That's my suggestion. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I was just, that's the only part that concerns me is changing that.
Mark, think about that for a bit. Councillor Lawrence.
Well,
Carol?
I don't know that that's necessary when this one says it can be terminated by either party with 60 days notice. I mean, if we have that discussion and we come to some other solution or whatever, we still can, we don't have to limit this to a year. And I just want to say on Don's comment about the employees and so on, is the building department not self-sustaining? Like if you look at the revenues and the expenditures, there's not a lot of tax money goes into the building inspector portion of it. And I think even the environmental is self-sustaining because people are charged for that inspection. And you said that he has been there as the environmental inspector. That's long before even amalgamation. If you weren't paying less, you'd be paying the health unit. So, you know, and again, I think we're getting better service from less than what you're going to, not to put the health unit down, but I think Les is certainly qualified. He's got that ticket that goes with it and a lot of knowledge.
Well, and I'm saying that as well too, something I didn't bring up, but when you're under contract, you know, it's no guarantee, it's
as
the work
needed.
that's as needed.
Yeah, and it says that right there, as needed.
Yeah, and that's heavily monitored. Okay? You fine with that explanation, Mark, or do you want to go further?
In terms of the 1 year versus just the ongoing, in terms of the 1 year contract, I don't think Mr. McKenna has any issue with that. Just again, administrative to keep track of it. Going through the recent, I guess bluntly, the union issue, I don't think there is really any difference between having a 1 year contract, especially when an individual has been being renewed constantly, and I think that was basically some advice that we were given, that there really isn't, you know, you're basically an employee there. So, you know, if you want to go the 1 year, I don't think Mr. McKinnon has any issue with it. As the mayor mentioned, it is a contract position. If there's no work, then he won't work, and obviously, I guess council, if they do see, if it, you know, the building department is slow right now, it could increase. If it doesn't, then perhaps that's something that we need council and staff, or the CEO, myself, whoever the future CEO may have to keep abreast of and monitor that and see if it can be in-house. There's certainly going to be pressures soon enough with source protection, which we mentioned earlier. Those 3 individuals are all qualified to do source protection, so that's going to increase their workload too. So again, the CBO, Mr. Veenstra as well, if they're involved with source protection, they're not going to have as much time as you might think if building activity still is slow.
Okay. Now, did I introduce this? I don't have. All right, we've had a pretty good discussion on the motion, and I haven't even introduced the motion yet. On the proposed bylaw. Going to introduce the motion. Moved by Bev Cutting and seconded by Carol Lawrence. Be it resolved that bylaw number 6, 2014, being a bylaw to provide for remuneration for contract employees, Les McKinnon, Building Inspector, Bylaw Enforcement Officer / Property Standards Officer, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Is there any questions or comments on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Okay. Now the next one is bylaw number 7, and this deals with contract employee as well too, and this is dealing with their environmental health and sewage system inspectors. Any questions on this one that haven't already been asked when we were dealing with the last one? I have a motion moved by John A. Bell and seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 7, 2014, being a bylaw to provide for remuneration for contract employees, Les McKinnon, Environmental Health Officer / on-site sewage system inspector, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions on the motion? Don, Councilor Marshall.
Just going to comment that some year it might be interesting to tender that job out, because there is a few people out there now that are getting their inspection tickets, and we might, even though it doesn't come out of the levy, it does come out of the taxpayer's pocket when they're buying septic permits or building permits. So if we can get, if we can hire cheaper help, then that means cheaper permits.
Okay. We'll look at that. Any other comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Declare that carried. Okay. And bylaw number 8, 2014. As a bylaw to adopt the revenues and expenditures for 2014. Any questions on this one? It's recommended by the Finance Committee. I have a motion moved by Mark Rapkin, seconded by David Mollison. Be it resolved that bylaw number 8, 2014, being a bylaw to adopt the estimates of revenue and expenditures for the year 2014, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Declare that carried. There we go. Any new business? Don, Councilor Marshall.
Just thinking about when Mark brought up about the Sutherland pit and about their expansion of 250,000 tons a year. And of all the public input that goes through approvals to get a gravel pit open, I think at the very least we should ask Mr. Sutherland to have a public meeting, or ask the MNR to ask Mr. Sutherland to have a public meeting, just to give the people the opportunity to comment. And maybe there won't be anybody there, but there's a lot of feedback when there's a gravel pit opens up, and not just his, a lot of other ones. And I think there might be some people that might want to attend that meeting just to see how many extra trucks are going to be on the road or what he's got proposed.
In saying that, Don, would we be better off to ask Minister of Natural Resources? Because all it really takes right now is we can make a comment, but it goes right through to the M&R on the license. Because there is no legislative requirements or anything. And I'm not going to speak for Mr. Sutherland or individuals, aggregate operators. It would just be a goodwill gesture, you know, on their part. But if M&R ask M&R to make a change in their legislation, might be a better place to start than, and maybe make that request for a delegation at the Good Roads, and saying, you know, as we're seeing, pits being put in at 25 and 50,000, and a year later or 2 years later, just all that it takes is a letter bumping the request up. It would be better looked at to be a change at the M&R. Should we start there?
Oh, I would agree, but this one here is probably going to get pushed through before Good Roads, or maybe shortly thereafter. We could do that, plus send a letter to the Minister of Natural Resources in Guelph and saying that we'd appreciate, or if they ever thought of doing one public meeting, just to get the feedback.
Mark, your thoughts as a planner?
I believe there was a deadline for comments on this when it was dealt with by council and just received for information. I can check. I do recall, and I thought I sent it through to council, that the county has responded to the proposal, and they do have some questions certainly regarding traffic issues. So the county did send a letter regarding this proposed tonnage increase. I can certainly check that, and I can certainly send comments to that effect about a public meeting being requested if council's agreeable.
Any other comments from council members about asking for this? Or making a, and I guess, Don, what you're saying is a letter on behalf of council to the proponent, asking if he would have a public meeting, or requesting that he has a public meeting, or a meeting of the public?
I think it better be come back through the Minister of Natural Resources, through the Guelph office. Ask the Guelph office if they would request that he have a public meeting.
Okay, so that's what Don wants. There is asking council to consider, send a letter off to M&R at Guelph on the aggregate resource for tonnage increase in the Sutherland Pit out in Glenelg for a public meeting, request from M&R.
Redford Pit? There's a Redford Pit there.
The Redford Pit?
The Redford Pit.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I said the Glenelg one. Yeah, sorry, it's the one out here in Bentic. Yeah. Yeah, Stadniker Redford Pit. The two of them mixed up. Sorry. Yeah, okay, the one in Bentic. Has anybody got a problem with Mark sending that letter off to M&R? No? Okay. Got direction, Mark? Okay. Any other new business? Addendums? Well, that should be under addendum or notice of motion. Well, notice of motion. Direct motion. Need a, in the one direct motion that I'm aware of, and I haven't got names, I can give you some names to put in there. It's a direct motion to name a fundraising committee to work on behalf of the Durham Arena heated viewing area to raise funds for that and to be able to issue tax receipts from the municipality for those donations. Are there any other direct motions or notice of motions coming in? Mark.
Can I just ask a question on that one? Is it possible to put in a Trillium funding request? Are we past that cycle, or is it something that you would entertain or not?
You're pretty, well, you are past that if the project, the timeline for the project is to be done in the spring of this year. The application should have been in November.
All right.
I believe it was November 1st.
Okay.
For it to be reviewed on March. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll need a 2/3 majority to introduce the direct motion for the fundraising committee. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Now, the one thing that I don't have is the names of the committee. I know that there's Don Trimble, Rob Nixon, and can somebody help me? Mr. Thompson.
Bruce Marshall.
Beagle.
Skinner. Is it Brent?
Brent.
Brent, I always call him Skinner. And myself, Mr. Bell, and your worship, you're on there.
I am? Oh, okay, I
Well, we
am.
had one meeting that they said you were unable to attend.
Yes, I said it. Brent Marshall?
Brent Marshall. Not Bruce Marshall, Brent.
Brent.
Bruce and Brent.
Bruce and Brent.
Yeah.
Brothers.
And myself, Mr. Bell.
Rob Thompson.
So those are just citizen appointments?
Yep. John Bell and myself.
Is any of them going to be a council appointment? You three?
Do you want to go on as a council appointment or just on as citizens? I would suggest citizen. I would say citizens. It's a non-payment. Yeah.
So you're all citizens?
Yeah, we only
Yeah.
had one meeting.
It's not a,
Okay, citizens.
Councilor Cutting. Councilor Cutting.
okay, you got those ones? All right, send it down there. Councillor Cutting, Bev?
I thought I remember hearing that the Youth Advisory Committee or some youth committee was donating $12,000 to this project, is that correct?
Be
So-
the recreation.
Don said that he had raised 13,000, so in other words, he's raised 1,000?
No.
That
He's
does not
raised
include that?
That doesn't include that. That's
Okay.
13 on top of the 12.
On top of the 12.
Yeah.
So is the goal of this committee to raise the entire amount?
My understanding it is, yes.
Okay.
Rob?
Yeah, there was just a quick meeting after Christmas. The idea was to raise as much money as possible to not take away from the reserves of the 23,000, to leave that in there for future projects in the arena, so we can go out corporate sponsors and everyone else and citizens within the community. That way we won't have to touch that 23,000. We can raise our own. And the Recreation Advisory Committee did donate the 12,000 from their teen dances and so on. So that's separate from that other, yeah. So he's moving right along with it.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll introduce the motion. It's moved by Rob Thompson and seconded by John A. Bell. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby appoints the following individuals to the Durham Arena Heated Viewing Area Fundraising Committee. Mr. Don Trimble, Bruce Marshall, Brent Marshall, Rob Thompson, John A. Bell, and Kevin Eccles. And, sorry, Rob Nixon was missed.
There's another name.
Yep. And Rob Nixon, okay. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Thank you. Closed session, don't believe we have any reason for that. Question, matters arising, won't be anything. Question period. Anybody got a question? Mr. Crosby, Don, go ahead.
On page 3 of the brief prepared for the Minister of Health on the Markdale Hospital, you know, it says that after 2011, Grey Highlands has explored the possibility of a P3 model. And it said, we are pleased to advise you that once the design of the hospital is approved, capital funding for the build has been secured subject to a guarantee from the province. Can you elaborate on that one?
There was a proposal coming forward for 3P being a private-public partnership from Grey Highlands, and I have no further information. I think you'd have to get a hold of Grey Highlands. I know that they did propose that. Whether they've got any confirmation on it or not, Don, as to, you know, who's got the money, you'd have to get a hold of. I believe it was something that the Mayor Fitzgerald had brought forward. So for any further details on it, what he has secured or found out further about it, about the private contributions, I don't know. Okay? Any other questions? Oh, no, he left it. Yeah. Dave did leave, but he did delegate to Councillor Rapke. Then I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Rapke gives us motion number 20. Thank you very much. Aye.